Hello my friends, William Poloniak here from Whole Health Foundation again. Today I'm making a juice with an abundance of zucchini and cucumber from my garden, as well as a number of other ingredients that seem to be ripening all at once. Let's look at the rest of my ingredients. Okay, in addition to my zucchini and cucumber, I have 2 red cabbage, about 150 grams of turmeric, 1 garlic clove, about 100 grams of ginger, French sorrel, 2 beets with tops, dandelion greens, kale, and carrots, of course. So let's start making juice. Now I'm going to start by putting on the near zero blowback cutter that has about 80 to 85 teeth cut into the 5 blades. And I'm using the front loading feed tube that eliminates blowback. What happens if you get blowback, instead of shooting up to your ceiling, it bounces off the angle back and forth and eliminates any blowback. So let's put the cutter on, and then we'll feed in some ice cubes to cool down the cutter and the feed tube. And the first thing I'm going to do is plug in the thermometer, and we'll feed in 3 or 4 ice cubes. I'm going to start with French sorrel. I just want to point out how efficiently the near zero blowback cutter shred that French sorrel, which is one of the most fibrous greens. And because it does such a good job, you're going to be tempted to put in more greens, but don't do that. Less greens is more effective. So let's continue. And even though it's a zero blowback feed tube and cutter, try to keep this covered. My temperature is over 20, so I'm going to put in 3 ice cubes. I'm also going to clean my grid because greens are very, very fibrous. The more often you can clean your grid, the better. Now I notice I'm using the number 2 grid, so I'm going to set that aside while I do greens and use the J grid, which is a little larger and better for greens. Continue. Next, I've cut my red cabbage into wedges that'll fit into the juicer. We'll do the red cabbage next. A couple more ice cubes. And I'm going to clean my grid, because I've done a lot of greens and I notice that my motor is starting to work hard. You notice how I use my finger on my glove to clean the knife, reassemble, and continue. Continue with the rest of my red cabbage. Next, I'm going to do my cucumbers. I want to point out one thing about cucumbers. They're very, very liquid. So remember to keep this covered. Even though it's not going to blow back up to your ceiling, it might spit out at you and hit your apron. So keep it covered whenever possible when doing cucumbers. Next I'm going to do my dandelion and my kale. Now here's the last of my kale and the last of my greens. Next we'll switch to carrots. Rotate the bowl. Now to force the last of these greens through, I'm going to put some carrots in and then clean the grid. Now as you can see, my bowl is very, very full. So what I'm going to do is move this pulp at the edge toward the center, shred some carrots, and then transfer the pulp into this auxiliary bowl because I have way too much pulp in the form of greens, and I want to shred carrots to have a good mix with carrots. So now I'm going to start with my carrots. Now as you can see, I've shredded enough carrots to go all the way around the rim, and the bowl is much, much too full. So what I'm going to do is use this 4-cup Pyrex container to scoop some carrots and greens from around the edge and put it into this auxiliary container. And then I'm going to continue shredding the rest of my carrots. And now to continue with my carrots. Here's one advantage of wearing gloves. You can clean the rim like as though you were using a spatula, thereby keeping your hands clean. We're up to 25 degrees, so 3 more ice cubes, and then continue with carrots. I try to keep my temperature below 20 if possible, definitely below 35. Go as high as 45, but the thermometer has a 30-second delay. So if you go up to 45, it's probably more like 55. So keep it below 30 if possible. Now here's the last of my carrots. Now I want to point out one of the beautiful things about this front-loading feed tube. You can see in here whether or not your produce is shred. It looks like it is, but I can guarantee you there's always a plug of carrot down here. So what I'm going to do is put in a couple handfuls of pulp and force that last plug through. The next step is to clean the grid holder and the cutter, mix the produce, and make some juice. Unplug the thermometer, remove the pusher, put it aside to clean later. Now we'll clean the feed tube and the cutter. My next step is to mix the produce, but because my bowl is very, very full, I have to be very, very careful. My goal is to mix the carrot pulp with the greens pulp as thoroughly as I can. Because my bowl is very, very full, I'm going to mix it twice. That looks a lot better. and I'm moving my cloth container over the edge so my cloths do not touch the countertop. Now let's make some juice. Now I'm going to be pressing 2 cloths full of pulp at one time, and I'm going to demonstrate my 6 cloth less work method. And as you observe, there's going to be a rhythm to what I'm doing. There's 1 cloth, I'll set that aside. 3 scoops into another cloth. I'm going to go in slow motion this time. Slowly, flatten that. Flatten it. A little crease at the back to enable you to fold better. Pull the front flap under the back flap with your fingers, notice. Now this first 2 set of cloths go in the press, centered left to right, centered front to back. The lever goes all the way back. Back it off a little because you do not want that to go up too fast. There I have 3 scoops. This goes over, you flatten it. This goes over, you flatten it. Put a little crease back at the back to help you fold better. Pull the front flap under the back flap. I'm doing this very slowly. Turn it upside down, set it aside. Now let's do that again a little more quickly this time. Now when I'm on my last cloth, I advance that a little bit more. And then all the way before I finish. Here's my 6 cloth less work method. This goes forward, this goes over, the spent cloths go on top, 2 more cloths in the press, centered left to right, centered front to back, all the way back, back it off a little bit. Now, we're not going to throw away this pulp. There's 2 methods that we're going to use. One is to put 2 scoops, not 3, on top of the old pulp and fold it and set it aside. The next method is to put the pulp in the container where it's puddling. Now you can see there's a lot of liquid in here. What I'm going to do is crush this up and put it in the puddle. And I'm going to continue with this cloth and put in 3 scoops instead of 2. Do not throw away the pulp until the very, very end. And that's because I'm going to show you how you can get 10% more juice out of the spent pulp. 10% is a lot of juice. Flatten that, set it aside. When I'm on my last cloth, advance that a little bit more. Put a couple of scoops on top. And before I finish folding, advance that all the way. Flatten that. Again, my 6 cloth method. This goes forward, that goes over. The spent cloths go on top, and we continue. And because my bowl is getting very full, we're going to keep an eye on that. So centered front to back, centered left to right, all the way back, back it off a little. And we continue. Now I'm filming this from the back side so the camera gets a good look, and you'll notice I'm leaving about 10% that I'm going to top off with filtered or distilled water. And I do that because the juice is too rich. Especially for a diabetic, you'll want to do this. So we'll fill the bottles up and then we'll make more juice. And later we'll top these off with water. Now I'm going to make more juice, and first I'll pull the tray forward, make sure it's seated on the press plate properly. 2 more cloths in the press, centered left to right, centered front to back, all the way back, back it off. And because I have a lot of puddling in this bowl, I'm going to pour it into the collection container. And very, very carefully hold these cloths with my thumb. And I mean very carefully. The first time I did this, I got it all over my countertop. Next, we have a puddle in the bowl again, so I'm going to take this and put it in the puddle and go back to 3 scoops. That's that all the way. This goes forward, that goes over. The spent pulp normally goes on top, but I'm going to set it aside because we're on our last cloths now. Now, centered left to right, centered front to back, all the way back, back it off. Now I'm going to demonstrate how I can get 10% more juice out of this spent pulp. You do not throw this away. Now I'm going to demonstrate how you get 10% more juice from this spent pulp. You do not throw this away until the very end. Now to get 10% more juice, we're going to wrap this into as tight a package as I can make. And I use a special folding technique when I do this. And fold it under 2 or 3 times, and this is to minimize slippage. And do that in both directions. And fold this under, like so. Turn it upside down, flatten it, advance that all the way. Set this aside and continue folding these cloths into a tight ball. Now, as you can see, I have 3 repackaged double packets of pulp here, and I'm going to be using a measuring beaker to see how much more juice we can get using the Whole Health Foundation Premium Model Juicer that has that solid bottom plate with a lifetime warranty. Next, we'll put 2 packets in the press and get it in the center as best you can. Centered left to right, centered front to back, back it off, all the way back, and then back it off a little bit. It's very, very important not to go up too quickly. Now, as soon as I get traction here, I'm going to advance a little bit more, a little bit at a time, because you definitely do not want this to slip apart. And then all the way. Advance that all the way. So far we have over 14 ounces. And as soon as I see traction, I'll advance a little bit more. We have almost 17 ounces all the way. Now that sound you hear is a safety bypass valve. If you don't hear that sound, you probably have too much pressure. So there's 19 ounces. And my container's going to overflow, so what I'm going to do now is pour this into the collection bowl and press the other 2 repackaged cloths, repackaged the second time. And as soon as I get traction, I'll advance a little bit more, a little bit at a time. Very, very important not to go up too fast. Advance a little bit more, and then all the way. There's another 6 ounces of juice, so that's 25 more ounces of juice so far. And as I said, on a Whole Health Foundation Premium Model Juicer, you can leave this press up indefinitely. And the nutrients in this last 10% of the juice are your most vital nutrients. Now there we have droplets, so you can back it off. And it looks like we've got another 6 ounces of juice, so 25 extra ounces of juice by pressing the already processed pulp. Now I'm topping off all of my bottles with distilled water. You can use filtered water. Now I'm going to cap them off and put them in the fridge. Well, my friends, as you can see, I have 5, 10, 15, 20 bottles of juice, and a couple of these were from repackaging the pulp and pressing again, and I have enough for a taste test. But before I taste the juice, there's one final step that everyone needs to do. One of your last steps is to press the water out of the cloths. and then put them in the freezer and inside of a plastic bag. Now the reason you keep it in the freezer is germs and airborne contaminants cannot grow in the freezer. So let's press all the water out, and then we'll put these cloths in a plastic bag, and into the freezer they will go. And one thing most people forget is to clean this upper plate. After every juicing session, clean the upper plate and also clean the side and under the press. There we go, all done. Well, my friends, now for a taste test. Oh, that's delicious. I can definitely taste the French sorrel and the dandelion. The dandelion adds a little bit of bitterness, and the French sorrel sweetens it up. Well, there you have it, my friends, a large batch of juice this time, 20 bottles. I hope you like what you've seen, and if you do, please tell a friend. If you'd like to telephone me, my phone number is 760-753-0321. My email address is developtrust@cox.net, and my webpage is wholehealthfound.com. See you in the next video.